All right, welcome to the second stream. Today I want to go over the RSI indicator that we have in Woodsbot and the tools that we provide in Woodsbot as well. And I want to just give you guys some, basically we have the masterclass section in the bot education, and I want to remake those live on stream with you guys. And today the topic is RSI. And once we are finished explaining the RSI indicator, we can move on to charts analysis. So any coins you guys want me to analyze, you can ask that later. Yeah, so today I want to explain the RSI indicator, nuances from RSI, how I utilize the RSI myself, because it is a key part in my trading. And yeah, let's get it. Just a question for you guys: does any one of you use RSI in your trading, or am I the only one? If I'm the only one, I'm gonna I'm gonna show you guys how you can utilize it, because in my opinion, RSI should be in everyone's trading strategy, or at least to analyze coins. I do. Perfect. So, what is RSI? RSI means relative strength index, which basically measures the momentum of a coin and the relative strength in price action. Let me rephrase it. So RSI means relative strength index, and what it does, it measures the momentum and the speed sort of price action compared to prior price action. And I'm going to show you guys the indicator. So this is the Woodsbot RSI indicator. What this indicator makes it different compared to other RSI indicators is basically that the Woodsbot RSI indicator shows us RSI divergences on the indicator itself. So you can see the red line over there. This is a RSI bearish divergence, and it basically just shows on the indicator itself, in case you don't know how to read RSI divergence. So RSI measures the relative strength of price action, but in general RSI is just a momentum oscillator. A momentum oscillator means that this indicator will always swing from 0 right here towards 100. It can never go past 100, and then it can never go past 0. It will always be the same. It will always oscillate between 0 and 100. This is what defines an oscillator. The way RSI is calculated, I don't have to go in detail on how it is being calculated, but what many people are not knowing is that RSI is calculated based on the candle closures. So every time you use RSI, you always have to wait for the candle closures, because that's how it's being calculated. So if you guys use RSI divergences and you see on the 50-minute charts, you see an RSI divergence being developed. Let's see if I can find an example. Right there we have an RSI divergence. And if I go to the indicator, we can see, okay, there was an RSI divergence before it was broken. And the RSI divergence is only valid if you wait for the candle closure, because that's just how it is being calculated on the indicator itself. So if you use the RSI, always wait for the candle closures. This is absolutely key. Now, there are multiple ways to basically use and interpret the RSI indicator. I would argue that the best way for you guys to utilize the RSI indicator is the RSI divergence. Why is that the case? So, to answer that questions is basically to understand RSI itself. What RSI basically does is RSI follows price action. If price action is strong, RSI follows the price action. And we can see this. I'm gonna go to the weekly time frame. So it's easier to see, and so what we can see here is that price action basically always follows the RSI and vice versa. We can see price action is making a low right here. RSI is doing the same thing, right? Price action is making a high right here, and the RSI indicator does the same thing. The same thing does it here. The price action is making another higher high, and price action, the RSI indicator is making also another higher high. So you can see how RSI follows the price action of any coins, right? So the special thing about the RSI indicator is that there are so-called divergences. I don't know if you guys know what a RSI divergence is. Do you guys know what RSI divergence is, or? Yeah, okay, perfect. So for maybe, so you guys know, but maybe other people don't know. So basically what an RSI divergence is that if price action, I'm gonna hide this indicator. So if price action is making higher highs, like in this example on Bitcoin, and then we can see the RSI indicator is making lower highs, right? So it does the exact opposite. What this tells us is basically that price action is becoming weaker and weaker, right? Because the RSI indicator measures the relative strength in price action. So if the RSI indicator tells you, okay, the RSI is making lower highs, but the price action is making higher highs, this tells you, okay, price action is getting weaker and weaker every time price action goes up and the RSI goes down. And it's the same thing for bullish divergence. So this was the case for bearish divergence. And for bullish divergence is the opposite, right? So you have price action making lower lows, as you can see here on this chart. And then you can see how the RSI indicator is making higher lows. And this indicates that price action is, even though it's making lower lows, it's actually gaining relative strength. So price action is relatively stronger on this low than compared to this low. So this is all what RSI divergence does. But it gives you a real edge to see when price action is getting weaker and when price action is getting stronger. Because you don't see on the chart itself that the price action is getting stronger, right? Because the price action is making lower lows. So on the chart itself, it looks like price action is getting weaker and weaker. But we can see on the RSI indicator, actually, the relative strength is getting stronger and stronger. So this is a huge advantage for us in trading, because you can't simply see this on the screen itself if you just look at the chart. And this is why having confluence like the RSI indicator and RSI divergence is so important in trading, because not everything is visually seeable on the chart itself. You can't see strength and weakness just by looking at the chart. You need indicators like the RSI, for example. So what we have in the Woodsbot Discord is we have an RSI divergence bot and we have an overbought and oversold bot. Have any of you guys used them so far? I don't speak Spanish, no. I'm completely German. I do speak English, I do speak German, and I do speak a little bit of Danish. Okay, some of you guys have used the bots. That's nice to hear. Do you guys have any questions regarding the bots that we have inside the Woodsbot server? Because I've gotten a question today that one person didn't fully understand how the bot works, like what is even oversold, what is overbought, what is a divergence. Do you guys have questions regarding that? No. Okay. Perfect. Then I don't have to go over the bots. I think the bots are pretty much self-explaining. But in general, the definition of oversold and overbought, I'm just gonna go quickly over that. So as you can see here, we have the RSI indicator, and as I said in the beginning, the RSI will always oscillate between 0 and 100, right? It will always swing between these numbers. And oversold and overbought basically just means that if the RSI gets above 70, then this is the definition of being overbought, right? So if RSI is above 70, this is where RSI is per definition overbought. And the same thing goes for if the RSI is under 30, this means that the RSI is oversold. Now, overbought and oversold doesn't mean anything without context, in my opinion. So just because a coin is in a oversold or overbought area, it doesn't mean that the coin has to dump or pump right away, right? I'm gonna give you guys some examples why I think sometimes so overbought and oversold is good, but only if you put context behind that. And the reason why is pretty much simple. I'm gonna show you guys here this example right there. So we are on the monthly time frame for Bitcoin, and as you can see, the RSI indicator right here is way fucking overbought, right? Like it was around 95. In its history, this only happened 4 times. And in 2017, it was overbought for a long time. And I'm showing you guys this because just because a coin is on the overbought side, it doesn't mean it's gonna have to dump, you know. And we can see this right here. So the first time the RSI was getting into the overbought area was right there. So around this level. So Bitcoin was around $1K the first time it went overbought on the RSI indicator, right? And you can see what happens afterwards. It's pretty fucking massive what happened afterward. It went from 1K to 21K, you know, and it stayed in the overbought area for 1 year, like exactly 1 year. It stayed in the overbought area before it finally pumped. So I hope you guys can see why, even though a coin is in the overbought or oversold area, it doesn't mean it has to do anything. Just because Bitcoin may be oversold right now doesn't mean it has to pump, you know. And this is where some of the nuance knowledge that I have comes in, because I'm a firm believer that, okay, so basically what most people use the RSI indicator for is they just look at the overbought and oversold section, right? They see, okay, the RSI is above 70, now I'm gonna short. If you do this, you're not gonna make money. If you do this, you're just gonna only lose money, to be honest. Overbought doesn't mean it has to dump right away. In fact, I would even say it's the opposite. And as we can see here, okay, so basically I would say that the overbought area, so the 70 area right here, where you have the dotted line, if the RSI accepts above the 70 number, it's actually a bullish signal. You know, it's not a bearish signal if the RSI gets above the 70 number. You can think about the 70 and the 30 number as sort of resistance and support. In the same way where you have resistance and price action comes into the resistance and then rejects, this is bearish. But if price action actually accepts above the resistance and now becomes support, this is fucking bullish, right? And the same way it is for the RSI indicator. So if price action, so if the RSI accepts above the 70 region, so the overbought area, goes up and then retests it and basically bounce from it, this is an extremely bullish signal. This is not bearish. So if you have a coin and you see the RSI is accepting above the 70 area and it comes back down right here, like in this case, this for me is not a short. I would rather instead look for longs on a retest of this 70 area on the RSI indicator. This is support for the RSI, and to be honest, price action as well. And you can see how the RSI reacted of the 70 area. Obviously it doesn't hit perfectly, but on the RSI indicator it never really hits perfectly. It doesn't have to be. But you can see how strong the momentum gets afterwards, right? So this is where the RSI indicator retested at 70 area. And this is what happens afterwards. It basically just pumps 1000%. I mean, what more can you want, you know? And people that don't know that this is actually a bullish signal, people will short this, you know, because they think, okay, RSI is in the overbought area, I have to short. No, you don't. This is actually this is the most bullish signal you can get when a coin that is trending, accepting above the 70 area on the RSI, and then retesting that as support, and then you get a fresh swing of momentum. This is the strongest bullish signal you can get on the RSI indicator. So it's the exact opposite of what people are thinking that will happen. Just because it doesn't, people think it's in the overbought area, so they have the short. That's bullshit. That's a myth, you know. And obviously it's the same thing on the for the oversold area, right? We don't have this right here on the monthly chart. Let me look on the weekly. Okay, Bitcoin really didn't go into the oversold area for quite some time. Let me see if I can find an example. No, not really. I guess here's an example. So once again, the RSI is accepting into the oversold area, so the opposite of what the overbought area is. So it's accepting under the 30 mark. And you can see, okay, people would probably go long right here, right? Just because the RSI is oversold, they think, okay, I can just long. And you can see what happens, right? So this is the exact candle where the RSI is going into the oversold area. And this is where you get the biggest dumps, really. This is where you get the, I mean, look at this, you get a almost 50% move just from the RSI being oversold, you know. This is where the real bearish momentum kicks in. This is not the place for you to blindly long just because it's oversold. It's quite the opposite. You have to be really cautious if momentum is turning freshly into the oversold area. This is where you have to be really fucking careful, because then you get these impressive 40-50% dumps on any coin, you know. Does this make sense to you guys? Perfect. Now this is for the oversold and overbought area. Another thing that we have that is acting as support and resistance on the RSI is that when the RSI, so okay, we have this 70 area, this is the overbought area, then we have the 30 area, this is the oversold area, right? And then we have the middle, which is the 50 area. In the 50 area, you can think of basically for the RSI to, so the 50 area acts as resistance and support as well. You can see how the RSI is rejecting here, right? You can see how it is bouncing there. Here it's trying to accept, but it's rejecting again. Here it's bouncing off the 50 area, right? Here it's rejecting again. So you can think of the 50 area basically as support and resistance the same way as the overbought and oversold area. Now, I like to think that the 50 area for me is basically the resistance. So if the RSI comes from these lows, right? It comes from these lows, goes to the 50 area, and now the RSI has a choice on price action as well. If price action rejects, then it's a bearish signal. But if price action accepts above this 50 area, for me, this means the coin is gaining strength and momentum again. So if the RSI is accepting above the 50 area, this basically means it's getting into this bullish control zone again. This is where momentum becomes bullish again. But as long as the momentum stays under the 50 area, the momentum is bearish. So basically, if the RSI is above 50, the momentum is bullish. And if the RSI is below 50, the momentum is bearish. And so should price action also be considered. If the RSI is above 50, price action is more likely to be bullish. And if the RSI is below 50, price action is more likely to be bearish. Let me see if I can find an example. Ah yeah, perfect here. I think this is a pretty much picture perfect example of this, right? So as you can see here, we have price action hovering around the 50 area for quite some time, right? While price action is at resistance, right? We have this resistance right here. Price rejected many times from this area. But the RSI managed to stay above the 50 area, even though price action is at resistance, right? And then price action accepted above this resistance. Obviously the RSI pushed, we had this little pump, and then it retested the 50 area. And you can see price action retested support as well. So if you have price action retesting support and you have the RSI retesting the 50 area, which is also support for the RSI, this is a really, really strong signal and confluence for you to get long. This is the only confluence you need sometimes, really. And you can see just from this price action support retest and this RSI 50 support retest, you can see how price action pumped afterwards, right? Almost 460% it pumped just off this 50 area retest on the RSI. I mean, this is fucking insane. What indicator does that for you, you know? For me, it's crazy. It's crazy because so many people don't utilize that enough. And just by seeing, okay, where is price action? And obviously, you always need to combine price action with the RSI. You can't just use the RSI simply by itself. Same way as you shouldn't just be using price action by itself, right? You need confluences from other places, and this is additional confluence. And just by watching price action, just by watching the support area, and just by watching the support area for the RSI, you made the biggest trade in 2 years, you know? That's how simple it can be. Do you guys have any questions so far? I can see it on SI at the moment, 4 hours. Actually, let me have a look. SI. Man, I haven't traded this coin for so long. Oh my god. I mean, price action wise, this is a nasty fucking downtrend. Let me go to the 4 hour. Yeah, I think this is a good example right here as well. We can see right here we had so the blue lines on the RSI indicator, these were basically RSI divergences, right? So we had bearish divergence here with the red line, and we had bullish divergence with the blue line. And you can see once this orange RSI divergence broke, so the RSI accepted below the prior swing low on the RSI, right there, right? So it accepted below the swing low. It basically made the RSI bullish divergence no longer valid. It broke it, and you can see how the price reacted off it, right? You had bullish divergence right there, but then the RSI breaks this divergence, and price action didn't really move a lot, right? But after it broke the divergence, it dumped 2.7%. Not a lot, but I mean, probably because no one trades SI. All right. So I went over the 50 mark. I went over oversold and overbought areas. The only thing left for me is that, yeah. So I'm gonna go back to Bitcoin, and I'm gonna go to lower time frame. I'm gonna see if I can find. Okay, yeah. So this is perfect, right? So on this price action right here, and what I want to explain is that even though you have RSI bullish and bearish divergence, it doesn't mean that price action has to reverse off this point. So even though the RSI itself is super strong, the RSI itself is not sufficient enough to solely trade based on that, you know. If you can solely trade based on that on the higher time frame, but if you go to the lower time frame, you know, on the 50-minute, on the 1 hour, etc., I don't think it's enough to just see, okay, you have a bullish divergence or a bearish divergence, okay, let's fucking go long and short on that, right? And you can see right here that price action is often going to need multiple drives of bearish or bullish divergence before really reacting to that, right? So we have our first bullish divergence on the 50-minute chart, and price action pumped a little bit, right? It pumped a little bit, but then it went lower, and then we had our second drive of RSI bullish divergence. But even that was not enough. It still pumped. It gave you a nice $800 move, but again, it still went lower. And then you have the third drive of bullish divergence, and this is usually a really strong signal. So if you guys ever see three drives of bullish or bearish divergence, it's a really fucking strong signal. And obviously the higher the time frame, the more impactful the RSI divergence will be. And you can see, especially on lower time frame, you will see this happen a lot of times, that it's not going to be enough that there's just one single RSI divergence on lower time frame. On lower time frames, you oftentimes need 3 drives of bullish or bearish divergence to really catch the reversal, you know. And after the 3 drive bullish divergence was made, then you had the 3% pump, you know. So don't just use a single divergence for you guys to say, okay, maybe this is the perfect entry, I'm gonna go all in. Obviously, you still need support areas. You still need other confluences, especially on lower time frame. But yeah, the 3 drive divergence is one of the strongest long signals or short signals you can get. I think the best example for this is the weekly time frame on Bitcoin, in which you can see we have 3 drives of bearish divergence right there, right? We have a swing high, another higher high, and I'm gonna turn on the indicator, and you can see the RSI made lower highs, while price action made higher highs. But the RSI kept making lower highs, right? So just by looking at this, just by using the RSI weekly time frame, even on the weekly time frame, you sometimes have 3 drives of bearish or bullish divergence. And this is the most fucking bearish signal you can get, you know. Like, you don't, if it's on the weekly or monthly time frame, you don't need anything else but this, you know. This is an extremely bearish signal just by the RSI itself. And you can see that just by looking at the RSI, 3 drives of bearish divergence was the top for the whole crypto industry. You were able to catch this top just with the RSI indicator, you know. And one thing that is underutilized as well is the way I look at RSI is that for me, RSI is a chart itself. So if you can draw trend lines, for example, on Bitcoin on the price action, I'm just gonna make a basic trend line right here. You can see, okay, price action is following this trend line. The same you can do on the RSI indicator. So if you go to the weekly time frame, you have this high right here, another high, and another high. You can draw a trend line right there. And you can see how the trend line gets respected by the RSI, you know. So this trend line is our resistance on the RSI. So if price action, for example, accepts above the 50 mark and then accepts above this trend line, this could be a potential long, because now the trend line resistance is finally broken. And this actually works. I know it might sound crazy because you draw trend lines on an indicator, but this actually fucking works. Like it's I don't know if you guys knew this, but drawing trend lines works on indicators, especially on the RSI. Have a nice day, G2. See you soon. Does this make sense, you guys? Or do you have any questions? Oh, good. Okay. I think this is all I wanted to go over for the RSI. I think it was a pretty nice, tight education section. So if you guys have now any chart requests or any coins you want me to look at, just type in chat and I'll have a look at those coins. Okay, seems like no one needs any analysis on any coin. Hype, please. Okay, let me have a look at hype. There it is. I'm gonna have to get my volatility indicator. All right. So, on the monthly time frame, hype is still in a massive fucking uptrend, and I think it's the only, at least it's the only major coin that is still in a monthly uptrend. I mean, if you compare Bitcoin to hype, right? This is how Bitcoin looks. Bitcoin looks fucking bearish and awful. Hype, on the other hand, looks phenomenal. So, in general, if you guys are looking for any longs, I would just, so if you want to long Bitcoin, for example, you have triggers to long Bitcoin. Don't long Bitcoin, but just long hype instead, I would say. So the uptrend for hype is still intact. The uptrend would only be broken if hype, except below this swing low on 120, and I don't think this is gonna happen anytime soon. Monthly momentum, not much to say, but we can, yeah, weekly momentum, it looks fine, but so what I don't like about it is, as we discussed earlier, the 70 area is resistance for the RSI, and momentum quite clearly rejected of this 70 line, which signals for me that there might be. So what this says to me is that hype is probably not gonna pump like crazy in the coming weeks. Volatility is quite dead at the moment as well, so I don't expect any major new all-time highs for hype in the next 2 weeks. What I'm expecting for hype is just to consolidate in range, so you can still make some pretty much fucking banger trades. You know, you can maybe long the range lows right here and target the range highs right there and get your 10-20% moves. But for me, the RSI needs to probably come down to the 50 mark before it's ready to make new all-time highs. So I would say hype needs to consolidate for a bit in range, but it's still really bullish. On the 5-day, we see the same thing. The RSI momentum is still rejecting. How's the daily looking? Daily finally accepted above the 50 mark. Volatility is still decreasing. So on every major higher time frame, volatility is decreasing at the moment. So this means that there will likely be no new all-time high in the coming weeks. But I do think that next month hype will make new all-time highs, but not in the first 2 weeks, you know. But maybe in the third week or at the end of the month, hype will probably make new all-time highs. But it just needs to consolidate in range for a while. How's the 4-hour looking? Yeah, I mean, pretty much the same thing. It accepted back above the 50 mark. This is really good. It's now pulling back a bit. We have a nice area of demand right there. So let me see if it aligns with Fibonacci as well. Yeah, so this demand zone, right? So we have this demand zone right there. It aligns perfectly with the Fibonacci number right there. And the RSI is back above the 50 mark. So if I were to consider a long, I would look for a long inside this Fibonacci box. So from 63 to 61, I think you can look for longs. And if you have any bullish divergence on the 50 minute, this would be a long for me. So I would set alerts for this area for 63.5. And if it gets there, I would definitely consider a long. And then you can probably target, I mean, you can probably target to at least 71, I think. And maybe then it rejects and ranges again, you know. But yeah, hype is definitely, I would definitely look for a long around the 63 to 61 area. I think Woods is looking around 62-ish for hype as well. So it would align with this area. Yeah. Any other coins? Obviously, we have the monthly closure today, and the half-year closure as well. So I don't, yeah, I mean the monthly time frame on Bitcoin looks fucking awful. I do think that we are gonna bounce probably in the first 2 weeks of the next month. But yeah, it's looking bearish for Bitcoin on the monthly time frame. For Bitcoin, I'm gonna look for longs if Bitcoin sweeps this low. But other than that, I think patient pays. So stay patient. And if you guys want to long anything, long hype. And other than that, I would say I think that's a good point to end the stream. Can you share the name of the volatility indicator, please? Yeah. So if you go to TradingView and indicators, basically it's this indicator right there, the first one. It's Bollinger Band with percentile. So basically you can just type in BBWP. It's from the caretaker. It's free, so you don't have to pay anything or something. Yep. Alright, boys. I think it's time for me to head off. Thanks for coming. Next stream is gonna be on Thursday, and on Thursday I'm just gonna look at charts. I don't have any topics planned for that, so just chill charts, have some fun. Maybe look at some I don't know, fucking Twitter drama or something. I don't know. Yeah, Thursday is gonna be chill. This is my next stream. The stream afterwards is gonna be Sunday. Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for coming. I'm gonna be in a general chat and chart ideas. So if you guys still have any questions afterwards, just tag me in chart ideas, and I'm gonna be there. Yeah, so thanks for coming, and I see you guys on Thursday. Bye bye.